All right, I am going to quickly react to the new AP poll that came out. This is, of course, virtually meaningless. We've got the new college football playoff rankings coming out Tuesday night, but this is a good primer, a good preview on where teams might be ranked and kind of the storylines that will be developing for Tuesday night. So we've got a change amongst the top three. We have Michigan moving into that number 3 position. Georgia at 1. The big news here, Georgia nearly unanimous with 62 first place votes. Ohio State getting 1 first place vote after their tough win against Northwestern. And then Michigan right around 45 points behind the Buckeyes. And really, this is exactly what I think the playoff committee is going to do. It's going to be Georgia number 1, Ohio State 2, Michigan 3. I know there were a few people that thought maybe Michigan could pass Ohio State. The biggest problem for Michigan is their non-conference schedule. Of course, Ohio State's non-conference schedule just got a lot better with Notre Dame probably going to get ranked in terms of the committee poll. Notre Dame just beating Clemson. Ohio State beat Clemson in week 1. And Michigan has one of the worst non-conferences. Also, when you look at common opponents, Ohio State faced Penn State on the road. Michigan faced them at home. Ohio State trounced, Iowa, things like that. Plus, you also have to factor in the fact that the game against Northwestern, it was a horrible weather situation with the wind. Of course, there are major issues with Ohio State and their ability to run the ball, but I do think this is going to be the top 3 come Tuesday night. Number 4, they are going with TCU over Tennessee. So TCU, the undefeated team, looks like they're about 22 total points in front of Tennessee. It will be a big storyline on Tuesday night. Where's TCU ranked? Where's Tennessee ranked? They go TCU, Tennessee, Oregon at 6, LSU all the way up to 7 after their 1-point win, USC at 8, UCLA 9, and then Bama down at 10. So first glance, I really don't hate those rankings. Honestly, you've got Tennessee. You lose to the number 1 team on the road. It's tough, but you're not going to get punished that terribly considering they are still 9-1. They've still got really good metrics. TCU, it's going to come down to their next 2 games at Texas, which they're going to be underdogs in, and then the other game at Baylor after this next week. So TCU, in my opinion, they're not going undefeated. It's going to be very hard for them to go undefeated. The Big 12 is a gauntlet. Although I did think TCU was going to be 9-3, they've certainly surpassed what I thought. They need to go undefeated if they want to make the playoff at this point, or they would need some type of chaos situation to make it as a 1-loss Big 12 champion. And then LSU at number 6, 2-loss LSU in front of 1-loss USC and 1-loss UCLA. So that situation is, I think a lot of it has to do with USC's struggling on defense against the bad California offense. You allow 35 points. That's not a good look. LSU getting the major win at home against Bama, and UCLA's horrible non-conference schedule. That factors in as well. That's why they're at number 9. Oregon seems like the Pac-12's best chance at possibly having a playoff team. They got annihilated in week 1, but they've bounced back and they've looked very good. Beating Colorado, it's whatever. Just looking at the advanced stats and the advanced numbers, Oregon has a very, when you compare them to the top teams, a very below average defense in terms of efficiency. So it'll be interesting to see if that bites them. 11 is Ole Miss. They stay the same. They were on a bye. Clemson all the way down to 12. That's probably right. Clemson, they were always a paper tiger. They always had significant issues on offense. Utah moves down 1 spot. Don't really agree with that. I think Utah's a good team. Penn State is up 2 spots. I do agree. Penn State, I would probably have Utah in front of Clemson. I know they're a 2-loss team, but at this point in the season, they're better. Penn State at 14, I like a lot. North Carolina, you have to show them respect. They keep winning. Give them credit. They're up to number 15. Tulane at number 16, I think they're getting a little inflated at this point. Their offense, to me, is not good enough. They've got 3 tough games. They've got SMU, Cincinnati, and UCF coming up. I think next week is against UCF, so those are going to be 3 very hard games. If Tulane were to win out, they will 1,000% be the representative to go to a New Year's Six Bowl. If they lose a game, that's where it gets squirrely. You're probably looking at either Cincinnati or UCF. My guess, it'd probably be UCF, but of course it depends what UCF does. And then we do have NC State getting a surprising win on the road at Wake Forest using their defense in that one. Also, Wake Forest with a significant inability to run the football. We've got Texas at number 18 entering the poll. They should have already been ranked. They were ranked in the College Football Playoff Committee's initial rankings, I believe, at 24. They're all the way up to 18 after their big win against Kansas State on the road. That was an impressive victory. They controlled that game. You've got Liberty up to number 19. They got a win as 13.5-point underdogs on the road at Arkansas. They're 8-1 now. You've got, so maybe, you know what? Maybe the Independent has a shot at a New Year's Six Bowl, but I doubt it. Notre Dame entering at number 20. I think that's a fair ranking for them considering the 3 losses. They did have the horrible loss to Marshall. Also another really bad loss to Stanford, but some huge wins. North Carolina on the road, Clemson at home. Those are 2 massive victories. Illinois is down 7 spots, so they were a little juiced up in terms of the AP poll, all the way up to 14 there. They might be close to unranked in terms of the college playoff committee. UCF up to 22 after their win. You've got Kansas State down significantly, down 10 spots below Texas, of course. Both of those teams are 6-3. Washington makes an appearance after their win on Friday night. And then Florida State, who absolutely trounced Miami on the road, they make an appearance at 25. Cincinnati, the first team outside of the poll. You've also got Kentucky. I would not have either of those 2 teams ranked. I would not have Coastal Carolina ranked. I would not have Wake Forest ranked. I would not have Oklahoma State ranked. A team that I would have ranked is Baylor. I really like Baylor. I think all of the advanced numbers agree that Baylor, is around at least the top 20 team in college football. They do have the 3 losses, but I think if you put Florida State and Baylor on a neutral field, Baylor would be the favorite in that game, and they should be the favorite according to all the advanced numbers. You've got Kansas getting a shout out, getting back on track with their backup quarterback. I might be interested in giving them a ranking at number 25. Mississippi State getting some votes. I'll pass on them. South Carolina, I don't think so. Troy, they had a comeback win against Louisiana. UTSA had that big overtime win over UAB. Louisville with a very nice win over James Madison. James Madison has really fizzled out. Oregon State still getting a few votes even after their loss to Washington. And then San Jose State gets a random rogue vote. I guess there's some respect being shown to the Mountain West. But guys, the overall takeaways here, Ohio State stays at number 2. That's what I'm expecting on Tuesday. You've got Michigan moving up 1 spot with the Tennessee loss to number 3. I think it's all but certain it's going to be Georgia 1, Ohio State 2, Michigan 3. And then it comes down to where do you put TCU, Tennessee, Oregon. And really, I mean, the committee thought very highly of LSU, already slotting them in at number 10. They beat Alabama at home. How much do they move up? They're probably going to move up above USC because USC had a bad performance at home against a bad California team. You know, does LSU move in front of Oregon? Does LSU possibly, it'll be interesting to see how far up they go, but will TCU take over that 4th spot? And then how far does Tennessee drop? I think it's probably going to play out exactly like this. They may move LSU up 1 and put LSU at 6 just because initially they had LSU a lot higher. But this is probably very similar to how it's actually going to play out in terms of the committee and all of the playoffs. There's a lot of playoff scenarios still left out there. It all depends on the Big Ten situation with Ohio State and Michigan. Can TCU go undefeated? Tennessee finishes with 1 loss. I think they have a decent chance at making the playoff, depending on what happens if Georgia wins out. Their only loss would be to Georgia. but Tennessee does. I believe they do have 2 tough road games. We will see. Also, the other thing with LSU, I think LSU might lose to Arkansas. It just feels like the perfect letdown game. I know Arkansas just had a disappointing loss, but they're only going to be I saw 4, maybe 5-point favorites on the road at Arkansas. And then I think they're at A&M to end the season, or their second to last game is at A&M or something like that. So we will see. And then the Pac-12 situation with the 3-1 loss teams there, that's going to resolve itself. And Oregon is definitely going to have at least an outside chance if they end up going 12-1, winning the Pac-12. They're going to have a lot of quality wins. The question is, will that opening week horrible 49-3 loss really prevent them? Right now, if they get ranked at 6, that's a really good spot for them, in terms of being in front of LSU, being in front of USC and UCLA. They could move up depending on if TCU loses by process of elimination. And then Tennessee, of course, they're not going to have any more quality wins left on their schedule. Tennessee is done. That's an issue for Tennessee because they're not making the SEC championship. They're facing crap. They've got South Carolina, they've got Vanderbilt, and I believe Missouri to finish out. Missouri is next week for Tennessee, and then the other 2 games. So Tennessee, that's another storyline. They don't have any chances to build on their resume at this point. And they just got to be happy that Georgia game looked closer because that could have been a total blowout. That game could have very easily been 34-10 or 34-6 or something like that. But Georgia kind of just sat on the ball while it was raining and they held on for the win. Either way, we will see what happens Tuesday night. These rankings are just to talk about what's probably going to happen, and we will see what happens on Tuesday night, what the committee decides to do with all of these teams. But that's going to do it for this video, guys. Make sure you're following me on Twitter. Link to that's always in the description.